Welcome to our deep dive into Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
We're going to unlock these secrets of building relationships that just fuel success. I mean, everyone knows networking is important, but
Yeah.
get ready for some seriously actionable tips and some pretty inspiring stories
Yeah.
from his book.
You're right. It's not just about knowing people, it's how you actually nurture those connections to create this web of support and shared value. And actually, Ferrazzi, he starts the book with a really powerful story from when he was younger
Okay.
that really illustrates this point.
I'm ready. Let's hear it. What happened?
So he was a golf caddy,
Okay.
and he noticed something super fascinating about all the successful people at the country club.
Okay.
It wasn't just their talent or their smarts, it was how they formed this almost exclusive club.
Okay.
And they helped each other climb the ladder of success. They would share job opportunities,
Oh, wow.
invest in each other's ventures, even make sure that their kids got the best internships.
It's like a built-in support system
Exactly.
that gives them a huge advantage.
Exactly. And Ferrazzi realized that those who lacked that network were at a real disadvantage, almost like a form of poverty, even if they weren't like financially poor.
Yeah.
This experience shaped his belief that building a strong network is so crucial no matter where you come from.
It makes you wonder how many opportunities are out there that we don't even know about because we're not plugged in
Right.
to the right network. But hold on, when I hear networking, I kind of get this image of someone awkwardly collecting business cards at a conference.
Oh, yeah.
That's not what he's talking about, is it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
He challenges that negative perception.
Okay.
He sees networking as genuine connecting,
Okay, I like that.
not just these transactional interactions.
Okay.
It's about sharing your knowledge, your resources, empathy to create a mutually beneficial ecosystem.
Genuine connecting, it sounds a lot less forced
Yes.
and more, well, genuine. But how does that actually work in practice?
So he shares this great story about this woman named Mrs. Poland,
Okay.
who he caddied for. And he went above and beyond to help her win tournaments.
Nice.
And it wasn't about getting something in return. It was genuine helpfulness.
Yeah.
But guess what? Mrs. Poland started bragging about him to all of her golfing buddies.
Oh, wow.
And soon other golfers were specifically requesting him.
It's like what goes around comes around, but in a career sense.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of Ferrazzi's most important points. Building your network before you need it. He criticizes this young man who is waiting to start his own PR firm before connecting with potential clients. And he compares it to planting a garden and expecting to harvest without ever sowing any seeds.
Wow.
You got to cultivate those relationships in advance.
It's so true. We wait until we're desperate for a job or a favor before reaching out, but by then it's too late.
Right.
You need that foundation of support already in place. It's about being proactive,
Exactly.
not reactive.
And it's not just about collecting contacts,
Right.
like trophies. You got to nurture those relationships, and that means moving beyond the superficial.
And that brings us to another point.
Yes.
Don't be a networking robot.
That's right.
We've all seen them, those people who just go through the motions, collecting business cards.
Yeah.
No real interest in connecting.
Exactly. The book highlights this thing, quality over quantity.
Yeah, okay.
Finding common ground.
Yeah.
Having genuine interactions, not just blasting out mass emails or reciting your elevator pitch to anyone who will listen.
Right. So how do you avoid being that person at a conference?
So Ferrazzi, he has some amazing advice for maximizing conferences. He actually uses this term, conference commando.
Conference commando, I love it. Tell me more.
So instead of just passively attending these sessions,
Right.
he recommends getting involved, like even offering to help the organizers.
Okay.
Now, it might sound counterintuitive, but think about it.
Yeah.
You get that insider access, you meet those key people, and you're seen as someone who's helpful and proactive.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like a secret weapon
Exactly.
for networking. What else does he suggest?
He's a big advocate for speaking at conferences.
Okay.
If you have the opportunity,
Yeah.
it instantly positions you as an expert, and it gives you that platform to share your knowledge and connect with the audience. He even suggests creating these conferences within conferences.
Okay.
So organizing these smaller gatherings
Right.
within the larger event to connect with specific people that you've identified.
Wow, that's next level. Okay, so conferences are great, but what about when you have to reach out to someone cold,
Right.
like cold calling or emailing?
Yeah.
Any advice on making that less daunting?
Yes, so Ferrazzi tells the story of how he managed to score this meeting with John Pepper,
Okay.
former CEO of Procter& Gamble. And, he knew that cold calling wouldn't work, so he did his research.
Oh.
And turns out they both attended Yale, even had a connection to the same professor.
So he used that shared connection to warm up the conversation.
Exactly. He found common ground, instantly made the interaction more personal.
Okay.
He also recommends researching your target's needs and leveraging referrals whenever possible.
Makes sense. It's like showing up at a party with a friend instead of just barging in alone.
Exactly.
It's all about that warm introduction. But sometimes it's hard to know what to talk about, especially with someone you don't know that well.
Right.
Like, how do you break the ice?
So Ferrazzi believes that sharing your passions is one of the most powerful networking tools you have.
Okay.
It helps you connect with people on this deeper level and makes you more memorable.
You know what? I completely agree. Last year, I was at a conference, and I felt so awkward during the networking breaks.
Oh, yeah.
I was just making small talk, and I felt like I was just blending in
Yeah.
with everyone else. But then I met someone who was also really into rock climbing, and we ended up talking for like an hour.
That's great.
So it's amazing how shared interests can create that instant connection.
Right. It makes you more relatable, more approachable.
Absolutely. So it's not just about reciting your resume, it's about letting your personality shine through.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important point, becoming an information hub.
Okay.
Ferrazzi stresses the importance of being a valuable resource for your network.
So staying informed about your field, sharing insightful articles or book summaries.
Exactly. It positions you as a thought leader, someone who genuinely wants to help others.
I've started doing that recently, and it's amazing how much people appreciate it.
Oh, good.
It feels good to contribute and be seen as someone who's in the know.
That's great.
But even if you have those great conversations and make those initial connections, what happens next?
This is where a lot of people drop the ball. Follow-up.
Okay.
It's crucial. Ferrazzi emphasizes sending personalized messages within 24 hours of meeting someone,
Yeah.
referencing specific details from your conversation.
I'm guilty of not doing that enough. I always think, oh, I'll reach out later, and then I never do.
Yeah.
You're right. That follow-up is what solidifies the connection.
And avoid the generic, impersonal messages.
Right.
He actually shares this funny story about his own blunder,
Oh.
sending out mass holiday cards
Oh, no.
with different signatures. It backfired because it felt so inauthentic.
Oh, I bet.
It's a good reminder that people can tell when you're not putting in the effort.
That's hilarious. It makes you realize how important it is to be genuine
Yeah.
in your follow-up. So we've talked about building a network from scratch, but what about mentors? How do they fit into this whole picture?
Ferrazzi has some really interesting thoughts on mentorship.
Okay.
He challenges this traditional view of finding someone at the top of the ladder to guide you.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he encourages seeking mentors at all levels.
Okay.
Peers,
Yeah.
senior executives, even people who are just a few steps ahead of you.
I like that. It makes mentorship a lot more accessible, takes the pressure off of finding that one perfect mentor.
Exactly.
So it's more like a network of mentors.
Right. He also highlights how mentorship is a two-way street.
Okay.
Both the mentor and the mentee
Right.
should benefit from the exchange.
So it's about creating that cycle of learning and growth.
He shares a powerful story about his own experience at Deloitte.
Okay.
He was initially intimidated by the CEO, Pat LeConto,
Yeah.
but he took a chance and reached out. And turns out Pat was a really warm and supportive individual, genuinely invested in helping others. They formed this deep bond, and Pat became this true mentor, guided him, challenged him, and ultimately helped him succeed.
It's a great reminder that even the most successful people are still human
Right.
and often willing to help.
Then they want to give back.
You just have to be brave enough to reach out. This is already so insightful. I feel like I'm getting a whole new perspective on networking.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's more.
There's so much more. In the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we'll explore some of Ferrazzi's more advanced concepts, like social arbitrage
Ooh.
and how to become a master connector.
All right.
It's going to get even more interesting.
I'm ready. Okay, so we've laid this foundation with building genuine connections.
Yeah.
But how do you make those connections stick?
Okay.
What about, like, the art of conversation itself?
Right.
Is there more to it than just exchanging pleasantries?
That's a great question, and the book dives right into this.
Okay.
Ferrazzi believes that mastering small talk is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
We tend to think of it as superficial,
Right.
but he argues it's the foundation
Right.
for building those deeper connections.
Okay.
It's about finding those sparks of common ground, those little hooks that draw you in
Yeah.
and make you want to learn more.
It's like the appetizer before the main course.
Exactly.
It gets the conversation flowing,
Yeah.
sets the stage for those more meaningful discussions.
And he challenges the conventional wisdom about avoiding controversial or personal topics.
Oh, really?
He actually encourages vulnerability,
Okay.
arguing that it creates a sense of intimacy and connection.
Isn't that kind of risky? I mean, what if you end up saying something that offends the other person?
He acknowledges that it can be tricky,
Yeah.
but he argues that it's better to be authentic than to try to be someone you're not.
Okay.
And he shares this anecdote about a dinner party where he felt completely out of sync
Yeah.
with his conversation partner.
Yeah.
They were just making polite small talk, and he was just bored out of his mind.
Okay. What did he do?
He decided to just be real. He mentioned a tough board meeting he'd had
Okay.
and a recent breakup, things that were actually on his mind.
Wow, that's bold.
It was,
Yeah.
but it completely changed the dynamic of the conversation.
Yeah.
His honesty created this space for the other person to open up
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
And they ended up having this really meaningful connection. Sometimes, dropping the facade
Yeah.
and being vulnerable is the best way to connect with someone.
That's so true. We're so focused on presenting this perfect image
Right.
that we forget that people connect with authenticity. It's like those social media profiles where everyone seems to have the perfect life. It's exhausting.
Exactly.
But okay, let's say you've sparked a conversation. How do you actually keep it going? Any practical tips for those of us who struggle with small talk?
Ferrazzi, he has this 5-word phrase that he swears by.
Okay.
You're wonderful, tell me more.
Okay, that's brilliant. I'm totally stealing that.
Feel free.
It's simple, it's genuine, and it puts the focus on the other person. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Right.
You're actively encouraging them to share more about themselves.
Exactly. It shows that you're truly interested and invested in
Yeah.
the conversation.
But even with great conversational skills,
Yeah,
it's important to have something to say.
that's right.
Right. You don't want to be a blank slate.
Ish.
So what if you don't feel like you're particularly interesting?
The book emphasizes this thing, developing a unique point of view.
Okay.
He argues that we're all essentially brands now,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to figure out what makes us stand out from the crowd.
So it's not just about your job title or your skills. It's about cultivating those passions and interests.
Exactly.
The things that make you, well, you.
He talks about the importance of being well-read, staying informed about current events,
Yeah.
having this diverse range of interests. It's about being curious and engaged
Yeah.
with the world around you.
I love that. It's about being a more well-rounded person, not just someone who's good at their job.
Exactly.
But even if you have those interesting things to talk about,
Yeah.
how do you get people to listen?
So Ferrazzi tells this funny story about a time when he was asked about his secret
Okay.
for getting so much press coverage for his company.
Ooh, I want to hear this.
His answer was simple. He had a compelling story to tell,
Okay.
and he knew how to pitch it to journalists.
Right.
He understood their needs
Yeah.
and provided them with valuable content.
So it's about being a content creator yourself.
Exactly.
Someone who has something original and insightful to share.
He believes that's one of the best ways to build your brand
Okay.
and make yourself indispensable.
Yes.
He even gives tips on crafting a compelling message and pitching it to the media.
It's like becoming your own publicist.
Exactly.
You're not just waiting for someone to discover you. You're actively putting yourself out there.
That's right.
But what if you're not a natural storyteller?
Right.
Or you don't feel comfortable in the spotlight?
So Ferrazzi suggests embracing writing.
Okay.
He believes writing is such a powerful tool
Right.
for building credibility, connecting with influential people,
Yeah.
honing your communication skills. It forces you to clarify your thoughts, articulate your ideas in a concise and engaging way.
I've been wanting to start a blog for ages, but I always feel like I have nothing interesting to say.
Well, he even recommends writing articles
Okay.
about people you admire
Right.
or want to connect with. It's a great way to get on their radar
Oh,
and start a conversation.
that's such a clever idea.
Yeah.
It's like a backdoor approach to networking.
Exactly.
You're showcasing your knowledge and insights while also reaching out to someone you admire.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about communication, content, but what about the visual aspect of networking?
Yeah.
Is there a certain way you should present yourself?
So Ferrazzi dedicates this entire chapter to packaging your brand.
Okay.
He argues that first impressions matter,
Right.
and that includes your appearance, your clothing, your business cards,
Okay.
all those visual cues that communicate who you are.
I have definitely judged a book by its cover before, but wait, isn't that a bit superficial?
Well, he's not advocating for superficiality,
Okay.
but rather for presenting yourself in a way that reflects your best self and aligns with your brand. It's about thinking about how you want to be perceived
Right.
and making sure that your visual presentation is consistent
Yeah.
with that image.
So I get it. It's like dressing for the job you want,
Exactly.
not the job you have.
Okay.
But how do you stand out in a sea of suits?
Right.
Or business casual?
He emphasizes the importance of having this unique style,
Okay.
something that makes you memorable.
Okay.
It could be a signature accessory, a bold color palette,
Yeah.
or even just a confident posture. It's about finding what works for you and owning it.
I love that, owning it.
Yeah.
It's about confidence and authenticity, not trying to fit into a mold.
Right.
Okay, so let's say you've nailed your personal brand.
Yeah.
You're having those great conversations.
Right.
You're following up like a pro.
Mm-hmm.
How do you create buzz around yourself
Right.
or your work?
Ferrazzi believes that generating excitement
Okay.
and word of mouth
Right.
is crucial for success, whether you're an individual, a company, even a product.
Right.
He talks about the power of leveraging media and public relations
Mm-hmm.
to get your message out there and create momentum.
So it's about getting people talking,
Mm-hmm.
creating a buzz that makes others want to know more.
Exactly. He shares this great story about how he worked with this marketing agency
Mm-hmm.
to come up with a catchy name
Okay.
for this new advertising category.
Okay.
And they came up with this term advergaming,
Oh, yeah.
and it took off like wildfire.
Wow.
It became the industry standard
Okay.
and helped put his company on the map.
That's amazing. It shows the power of a well-crafted message.
Right.
But how do you even get started with PR?
He provides insights into how to craft a PR strategy,
Okay.
how to build those relationships with journalists,
Mm-hmm.
and how to master the art of the soundbite.
It sounds intimidating, especially if you're not used to dealing with the media.
He emphasizes the importance of providing value to journalists
Right.
and positioning yourself as this go-to source for information.
Okay.
And, you don't have to start big. Build your credibility by pitching stories to smaller publications
Okay.
and work your way up.
It's a good reminder that Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about events?
Yes.
How can you use events to leverage your network?
So Ferrazzi's a huge believer in the power of gatherings.
Okay.
Whether it's a dinner party, a conference,
Right.
or even just a casual get-together.
I love a good party, but how do you make sure your events are more than just social gatherings?
Right.
How do you turn them into networking opportunities?
So he encourages creativity and thinking outside the box.
Okay.
He shares his own experiences hosting these dinner parties
Mm-hmm.
and gives tips on how to make them memorable.
Okay, let's hear some of those tips.
He emphasizes having this diverse mix of people,
Okay.
creating a theme,
Yeah.
and seating guests strategically
Oh, yeah.
to encourage interesting conversations.
Oh, I'm a big fan of seating charts.
Yeah.
It's like playing matchmaker with your guests.
But it doesn't have to be extravagant. He says it's more about the atmosphere you create,
Yeah.
the warmth and generosity you extend
Right.
to your guests.
So it's not about the fancy food or the expensive wine.
Right?
It's about creating an environment
Yes.
where people feel comfortable connecting with each other.
Exactly. And don't forget the follow-up. Send those thank you notes
Yeah.
and continue the conversations
Right.
you started at the event.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. But there's one group of people I'm still a little intimidated by.
Okay.
Powerful people.
Right.
CEOs, celebrities, politicians. How do you even approach them
Right.
without feeling awkward or like you're trying too hard?
So Ferrazzi acknowledges that there's often this sense of intimidation when it comes to connecting with those who have achieved this high level of success or fame.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little starstruck sometimes.
He encourages us to approach those interactions with humility and authenticity, remembering that even the most accomplished people
Yeah.
are still human.
Right.
Focus on building genuine relationships
Right.
based on shared interests and mutual respect,
Yeah.
not because you want something from them.
So no bowing and scraping.
No, not at all.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you actually get on their radar?
He suggests several avenues. joining political campaigns, attending conferences,
Okay.
whether speaking, serving on nonprofit boards, and even participating in sports.
Wait, sports? Like joining a CEO's golf game?
So he points out that golf, in particular,
Okay.
is still a popular networking hub for business elites. It's a chance to build those relationships
Right.
in a more relaxed and social setting.
So maybe I need to work on my swing.
Maybe.
This is all so insightful. I feel like I'm getting a masterclass in networking.
And we're not done yet.
Oh, there's more.
In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore the importance of finding mentors and mentees,
Okay.
the power of giving back, and how to navigate this evolving landscape of networking in the digital age.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Stay tuned for some truly inspiring insights.
So we've talked about mastering that art of connection, building a strong network, even creating a buzz. But is there more to it than just building our own success?
Yeah.
What about giving back
Right.
and helping others?
That's a great point. It's something that Ferrazzi addresses head on. He believes that giving back is not just a nice thing to do.
Okay.
It's crucial for building a successful and meaningful network.
So it's not just about what you can get from other people. It's
Oh.
about what you can contribute.
Exactly. It's about creating that cycle
Okay.
of generosity and support. He encourages us to find ways to give back to our communities,
Yeah.
whether it's volunteering, sharing resources, or mentoring others.
Speaking of mentoring, I've always loved that idea of having a mentor, but I've also always been kind of intimidated by it.
Right.
How do you even find a mentor?
Yeah.
And what if you're not sure what to ask for?
So Ferrazzi has a really refreshing take on mentorship. He challenges that traditional view of finding that one perfect mentor at the top of their game who's going to solve all your problems.
Right.
Instead, he encourages us to seek guidance and support from people at all levels.
So it could be a colleague
Yeah.
or a former professor, even someone you admire from afar.
Exactly. He believes that everyone has something valuable to offer
Okay.
and that mentorship is a two-way street.
Right.
It's about creating that relationship
Yeah.
of mutual learning and growth. He shares a story about his own experience at Deloitte, where he was initially intimidated by the CEO, Pat LeConto.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
Right.
What happened?
Well, instead of letting that fear hold him back, Ferrazzi decided to be bold and reach out to Pat.
Okay.
And he discovered that Pat was actually a really down-to-earth, approachable person who was genuinely invested in helping others succeed.
Okay. So it was about taking a chance and building a genuine connection, even with someone who seemed intimidating at first.
Exactly. And that relationship blossomed into this true mentorship.
Right.
You know, Pat became a trusted advisor,
Yeah.
offering guidance, support, and even tough love when needed.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the most successful people are often willing to share their wisdom and experience if you just ask.
I love that. It takes the pressure off finding that one perfect mentor.
Right.
Makes mentorship feel more accessible.
Exactly.
But what about becoming a mentor yourself? I feel like I'm still so early in my career. What could I possibly offer someone else?
Well, that's a common misconception. Ferrazzi argues that everyone has something valuable to teach, no matter where they are in their journey.
So even if I'm not a CEO or a world-renowned expert, I can still be a mentor.
Absolutely. He encourages us to embrace that role
Okay.
of mentor,
Right.
to share our knowledge, skills, and experiences with others.
You know, I've been volunteering at this local youth organization, and I found that I really enjoy working with the kids.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a form of mentorship.
It absolutely is. Mentoring doesn't have to be formal or structured. You can be as simple as offering advice,
Right.
sharing your story, or just being a supportive presence
Right.
in someone's life.
I like that. It makes mentorship feel more approachable,
Yeah.
less intimidating.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's bring it back to the modern world. Ferrazzi wrote this book way back in 2005. A lot has changed since then, especially with social media and digital networking. Do his ideas still hold up?
That's a great question. And while the way we connect has evolved, those fundamental principles of building strong relationships remain the same.
Okay.
It's still about being authentic, generous, and persistent in your efforts.
So it's not about collecting thousands of LinkedIn connections or having a perfectly curated Instagram feed.
Right. It's about cultivating genuine relationships that add value to our lives and the lives of others.
Yeah.
Social media can be a great tool for connecting, but it's important to remember it's just a tool.
Right.
It's not a substitute for real human interaction.
So it's about using technology to enhance our connections,
Yeah, go ahead.
not replace them.
Ferrazzi actually ends the book with his powerful call to action.
Okay.
He says, build it and they will come. He believes that if we focus on creating this community of support and shared value, the opportunities will naturally follow.
So it's about taking the initiative, being the one who reaches out, who connects people, who makes things happen.
Exactly. He encourages us to be those initiators, the connectors, the ones who build bridges instead of walls.
Wow, that's really inspiring. It makes you want to get out there and start building your own community of support. This has been an incredible deep dive into Never Eat Alone.
It really has.
We've explored so many practical strategies for building those genuine relationships,
Yeah.
mastering the art of communication, and leveraging that power of connection for both personal and professional success.
And we've learned that the most important ingredient in any successful connection
Yeah.
is authenticity, generosity,
Yeah.
and a genuine desire to make a difference in the lives of others.
So go out there, connect, build your community, and never eat alone.